Hi, I am Beena Philip from Bangalore doing a parenting lesson in partial fulfillment of Counseling Adolescence course under Dr. Ryan Irby RMSMT. Today, the title of my lesson is Understanding Adolescence. The beginning of adolescence is marked by the maturation of adrenal gland called adrenarche, and the end is marked by cultural markers such as getting a job, getting married, or moving out of parents' roof and living separately. In today's world, adolescence begins from age 10 and lasts till around age 25. Adolescence period can be divided into early adolescence of 10 to 13 years, middle adolescence of 14 to 17 years, late adolescence of 18 to 21 years, emerging adulthood of 18 to 25 years. John chapter 2 verse 24 to 25 says that Jesus knew what was in each person. It is important for us as parents to know what is in each child, what is in each adolescent. The lesson outline: today we will be looking at the biological transitions, the cognitive transitions, the social transitions, and the importance of the family and various parenting styles. The purpose is to help our adolescents to develop into responsible and mature adults. The biological transition deals with puberty, sleep, and brain development. The first biological transition we are going to look at is puberty. Genesis 1:27 to 28 says that God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. He blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground." This scripture indicates that we need to know the male and female aspects of God's creation, and that it is God's plan for people to experience sexual maturity and become capable of sexual reproduction, and also develop to the point of having dominion to effectively rule with God. The onset of puberty is triggered by the increase or decrease of hormones. There are no new hormones produced. This is a new understanding for me. I used to think and also tell people that a whole lot of new hormones are produced at puberty, which causes stress and storm. Actually, no new hormones are produced. Whatever was at birth is the levels are changed. This was a new teaching. Now we look at what happens biologically in puberty. The endocrine system regulates the level of hormones which activates the GnRH neurons, and the hormonal feedback loop HBG axis maintains levels of androgens and estrogens. The maturation of the adrenal gland is called adrenarche. The puberty is stimulated by the chemicals kisspeptin and leptin, and it's suppressed by melatonin. Epiphysis is the term for closing the ends of the long bones to terminate the increase of height. Puberty has three main physical manifestations. First is the rapid acceleration in height and weight. This is called the adolescent growth spurt. Second, the development of primary sex characteristics and gonads. Those are the testes and ovaries. Third is the development of secondary sex characteristics. Changes in genitals, breasts, the pubic, facial and body hair growth. It also includes an increase in body fat, especially for girls. The muscle to fat ratio for girls is 5:4, while for boys it's only 3:1. This produces a lot of body dissatisfaction, especially in girls, by comparison to their peers. Physical appearance at this phase is more important than anything else, both for boys and girls. The preoccupation with self-image happens, and it can lead to obesity and eating disorders. The eating disorders are anorexia nervosa, where people starve themselves to keep their weight down. Bulimia is where people force themselves to vomit or take laxatives. And binge eating disorders is where people go on eating sprees and they keep feeling guilty, but they feel helpless and continue doing the same. Boys are more concerned with their muscle appearance, but it doesn't disturb them to the extent that girls are disturbed with their physical appearance. There are certain factors which cause early maturation. An increase in exposure to light, like adolescents or like children who live near the equator, get to have an early maturation. And today, universally, all the children who are exposed to electronic gadgets and the light emission are prone to have early maturation. The increase in nutrition and health also causes more fat cells and causes early maturation. Girls who live in homes where fathers are absent or stepfathers are present, or a lot of conflict happens, or childhood abuse occurs, a stress hormone called cortisol is produced and causes early maturation. Early maturation can also lead to psychological problems. The 5 Tanner stages define various physical changes during puberty. This diagram shows the 5 Tanner stages for boys. And this is the 5 Tanner stages for girls, showing the various physical changes during puberty. The second biological transition we will look at is sleep. Psalms 23 verses 1 to 3. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in pastures of tender grass. He leads me beside the waters of rest. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. God commanded Sabbath rest for people. He is our shepherd, leading us to quiet waters, for times of complete rest, to refresh and restore our entire being. Adolescents also need shepherds, and they also need rest, and all the more important as they are going through all these transitions and changes happening to them. With puberty, melatonin levels begin to rise only 2 hours later than in childhood. The pattern of sleep characterized by later sleep and wake times is called delayed phase preference. Staying up late with computers and phones at bedtime and going to school early with early school schedules causes sleep deprivation in adolescents. This is my new understanding. I used to teach that if we train our children to be disciplined, to rise early from a small age, they would be habituated to that pattern for the rest of their life. But the understanding of delayed phase preference gives me the insight that it doesn't in fact happen. So given our early school starting timings, we need to practice cutoff times for electronic gadget use by adolescents before bedtime so that they would not go through sleep deprivation. Insufficient sleep can lead to depression, substance abuse, obesity, and delinquency. Trying to catch up just on weekends only leads to more problems. The third biological transition of brain development. Psalms 139:14 says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that fully well. Brain development is one of the most amazing works of God. Proverbs 22:6 says, start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. In fact, adolescence is the best time to train children. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power and love and self-discipline. Adolescence is the time we can train them to develop self-control, which they so much need. The brain functions by sending electrical signals across interconnected nerve cell circuits called neurons, which consists of its cell body and axon and thousands of dendrites. Neurotransmitters are specialized chemicals that carry electrical impulses between synapses, which are the gaps between neurons. The gray matter consists of neurons and the projections that connect them, while white matter are the cells other than neurons that help transmit impulses along brain circuits. So these diagrams show the neuron, the axons, the dendrites, and the sheath of myelin and the axon terminals. This shows the transmitting neuron, which transmit neurotransmitters across the gap, and the receptor neurons, which are specific for each neurotransmitter. And when I look at this, it is amazing how God designed all this so intricately. So in adolescence, the brain is affected by the neurotransmitter dopamine, regulating the experience of reward, and serotonin, regulating the experience of different moods. Increase in dopamine causes heightened vulnerability to sensation seeking, to seeking the reward of pleasure. Synaptic pruning is eliminating unnecessary connections between neurons, and this is how the prefrontal cortex is remodeled. Myelination is insulating brain circuits with myelin sheaths, improving efficiency of information processing, and this causes the white matter to increase. This diagram shows the white matter and the gray matter. People experience vivid, detailed memories of ordinary events of adolescence. This is called as reminiscence bump. This is because ordinary events trigger stronger emotions in adolescence. Plasticity is the malleability of brain, experiences changing of brain circuits, and allows learning. Developmental plasticity during adolescence creates new networks, and it is deepened by practice. But adult plasticity can only cause slight changes to existing networks. That is why having a highly malleable brain in adolescence is both a very highly vulnerable time to dangerous effects of substance abuse or pornography. Alcohol is number one substance abuser, followed by marijuana and tobacco. It causes addictions even in adulthood. Hundreds of adolescents die or cause others to die due to drunken and risky driving, as well as involving in violence and sexually risky behavior. The increase in dopamine increases the sensitivity to immediate rewards of pleasure, and hence adolescents are prone to dangerous, risky behavior. In the presence of peers, heightens the risky behavior. And they are also prone to mental health problems, obesity. Heightened brain plasticity makes adolescence also a great window of opportunity, not only to learn new skills, but also to learn and train in self-regulation. The presence of adults or activities under adult supervision helps. Specific activities that coordinate the prefrontal cortex and the limbic area of the brain, like team sports, helps gain self-regulation. Yoga and meditation also helps. A new understanding. Before, I used to teach that 0 to 5 years is the age of maximum brain development, and probably the only one. But now I understand that adolescence is the second heightened period of malleability after the 0 to 3 years. Hence, we need to use this great window of opportunity to help adolescents benefit the most by providing a positive, intentional environment for developing self-regulation. Okay, that brings us to cognitive transitions. Those are changes in cognition or thinking. The changes in thinking happens in the following areas. Thinking about possibilities. Adolescents are able to easily move between the specific and the abstract to generate many alternative possibilities. Second, thinking about abstract concepts like relationships, politics, religion, philosophy, friendships, honesty. This is the age they start thinking of these things. Third is thinking about thinking, metacognition, monitoring and assessing one's own cognitive activity, thinking of others, think of oneself. This causes increased self-consciousness, extreme self-absorption, things like imaginary audience that everyone is watching them, personal fable, that they are the center of attention of the whole world, and super protection. Somehow, nothing will happen to them no matter whatever risky behavior they involve in. This is the time they also are capable of thinking in multiple dimensions. And adolescent relativism, they think relatively. Parents' authority is no more absolute. Everything is taken relatively. So the conflicts with parents and bickering increases. The conflicts happen opinions of style of music or dressing or leisure activities, and not on intentional rebellion, not on important values. At the same time, parents also go through midlife crisis, and this increases the stress and the strain. This period of adolescence is the best to engage adolescents in spiritual instructions. A new understanding. I believe that the general understanding that teenagers want to rebel against everything possible. This is a time of storm and stress. Now I've understood that in fact they have the same foundational ideas about values and religious beliefs. They only fight on matters of opinion and control over things like keeping the room clean, or the style of dressing, or the songs they listen, or the leisure time activities. This is a part of the development of their autonomy, and it is okay. The relationship with parents become better in the middle and late adolescence. The third transition is a period of social passage from childhood to adulthood. It is different according to different cultures and historical periods. Romans chapter 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." When we examine Luke 2, 41 to 52, we see that this is the story of Jesus as a 12-year-old boy was taken to Jerusalem at the feast of Passover. His parents figured out that he was not with them after 3 days, and they were anxious, understandable for all parents of adolescents, and they came searching for him and found him at the temple and was sitting with the teachers of the law. And here we see that Jesus had cognitively developed enough at 12 years to reason out with the scribes, to have a discourse with the teachers of the law and ask them questions. It also shows the social transition that Jesus was undergoing of pushing back from his parents and staying independently for 3 whole days away from them. And when they questioned him and expressed their anxiety, he asked them questions showing relative thinking. But he went back and he was obedient to them. And he grew in stature, he developed biologically, and in his relationship with other men socially. Adolescents have a social brain, and they are excessively sensitive to facial expressions, to social evaluation. They become overly self-conscious or embarrassed. This happens even with my own daughter. She always asks me when I tell her anything, "Why are you shouting?" I'm like, "I didn't shout, I just told you." Now I understand that why this happens, that they're excessively sensitive even to facial expressions. Research has shown that age 14 is the highest vulnerability for mental health problems like depression. 10 to 20% of adolescents experience mental health conditions, but they're not diagnosed or treated. The social transition period is the best to help adolescents make a good transition by helping them develop and maintain social and emotional habits, good healthy sleep patterns, regular exercise, and to develop problem solving and interpersonal skills learn to manage their emotions like anger. Now we will look at the importance of family. Family is very important to the adolescent. Exposure to marital conflicts, especially if it is violent or if there's constant fights between parents, it is very harmful. It causes distress and depression in adolescents. The relationship with parents is central to them. Love, acceptance, support, involvement, and direction from parents is vitally important and more important than nurturing or protection or socialization like in younger children. We are going to look at the parenting styles and their effects. Coming to parenting, there are two critical aspects of parenting. First is parental responsiveness. The degree to which a parent responds to the child's needs in an accepting, supporting manner is called parental responsiveness. The warmth is the degree of warmth. The second factor is parental demandingness, the degree to which parent expects and insists on mature, responsible behavior from the child. This is the degree of firmness called the parental demandingness. This diagram shows the different parenting styles according to the demandingness and responsiveness. High demandingness and high responsiveness has authoritative parenting. Now, child-centered and all those things are shown on the diagram. High demandingness with low responsiveness is authoritarian parenting, and high responsiveness with low demandingness produces indulgent parenting, and low responsiveness and low demandingness, it talks about indifferent parenting. Let's look at authoritative parenting. Authoritative parents use appropriate balance between restrictiveness and autonomy that sets standards but promotes self-reliance and intellectual development. They nurture a warm parent-child relationship, raise psychosocially mature, responsible, and academically successful adolescents who are more likely to admire and form strong attachments with their parents. Authoritarian parents use punitive, absolute, and forceful discipline and place a premium on obedience and conformity. Children become passive, dependent, socially inadept, and they risk of developing depression and loss of esteem. The third parenting style of indulgent parents are characterized by high responsiveness but low demandingness, and they are mainly concerned with the child's happiness alone. The children remain immature, irresponsible, more conforming to their peers. The fourth parenting style is indifferent parenting. It is characterized by low levels of both responsiveness and demandingness. Children become impulsive, prone to delinquency, high-risk behavior like sex, drugs, and alcohol. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 1 to 4 says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on earth. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the learning and instruction of the Lord." This shows authoritative parenting. There is a firm expectation from children to keep the godly standard of obedience, obeying and honoring parents. This ensures great relationship between children and parents. There is also a promised reward, an affirmation and recognition for their right choice of enjoying and ongoing a long life on earth as long as they grew into godly adults. There is a specific command for fathers not to be an exasperating and authoritarian parent, but to have open communication in teaching children what it means to know the Lord, as well as being involved and available to help them fulfill these expectations. This scripture instructs authoritative parenting and bidirectional relationship. The compliance of children would prompt compliance of parents and vice versa. Colossians chapter 3 verse 18 to 21 says, "Wives, submit yourself to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged." This scripture upholds authoritative parenting and how parents need to have a good marital relationship. The 10 basic principles of good parenting are shown here. What we do matters. We cannot be too loving. We should be involved in the child's life, adapt a parenting to fit our child, establish rules, set limits, help foster the child's independence, be consistent, avoid harsh discipline, explain your rules and decisions, and treat your child with respect. This is the list of a few books that could help you in your journey of having a great parenting life. As I Chooses by John and Karen Lewis, Art of Intimate Marriage by Tim and Dr. Kenisa Gonson, 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John Gottman, Good Enough Parenting by John and Karen Lewis, Family Shepherds by Woody, Generation to Generation by Edwin Friedman, Family, the Forming Center by Marjorie Thompson, Marriage and Family Counseling podcasts. So all these are good resources and would be very helpful. We have covered the fundamental changes of adolescent development in biological, cognitive, and social transitions, and also authoritative parenting style. The next 2 sessions will cover context of adolescence and psychosocial development during adolescence. Thank you. To God be the glory.